A pope resigning is still a relatively new concept in the modern era, yet it has happened twice in the last decade. The resignation of Benedict XVI in 2013 was an event so unprecedented that the world initially struggled to comprehend it. Now, whispers in the Vatican suggest that history may be about to repeat itself. But what happens when a pope is no longer physically able to lead? Could a resignation destabilize the Church, or, on the contrary, reinforce its resilience? When health deteriorates to the point of preventing leadership, stepping aside is no longer a choice, but a necessity. This is precisely why Pope Francis, early in his pontificate, signed a letter of preventive resignation, ensuring that, should he become incapacitated, his departure would be immediate. If you enjoy content that helps you grow spiritually, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our community for more inspiration. Let's get started. However, a pope resigning, especially in rapid succession, could set a precedent that fundamentally alters the papacy. Would it become an elected position with an expected retirement rather than a lifelong mission? This is the dilemma the Vatican now faces. For months, speculation about Pope Francis's health has grown. His increasing absences from public engagements, reliance on a wheelchair, and multiple hospitalizations have fueled the debate. Most recently, his bout with bilateral pneumonia forced him to cancel audiences and limit travel, reinforcing concerns that his strength is waning. Inside the Vatican, whispers of succession are no longer taboo. The Swiss Guard has begun discreet preparations for a possible papal funeral, an unmistakable sign that the Holy See is bracing for change. The last time such an event unfolded, it shocked the world. When Benedict XVI announced his resignation, his decision was met with disbelief. For over 600 years, the papacy had been perceived as an unbreakable commitment until death. Yet Benedict demonstrated that a pontiff could step down without dismantling the Church's authority. Pope Francis himself had previously acknowledged this, stating that if his health became an obstacle, he would not hesitate to do the same. But this time, the circumstances are different. The world is not merely dealing with an aging theologian withdrawing into quiet retirement. If Francis resigns, it will be due to sheer physical limitation, not intellectual fatigue. Unlike Benedict, who represented doctrinal conservatism, Francis has actively reshaped the Church's leadership, appointing a majority of the current College of Cardinals. If he steps down, the impact will be felt beyond the Vatican walls. The decision will not only define his legacy, it will shape the future of the Church. Inside the Vatican, discussions once held in hushed tones are now being acknowledged behind closed doors. The Curia, a complex web of influence and power, is already positioning itself for the inevitable transition. While the official stance remains one of denial, subtle movements indicate otherwise. The division within the Church is becoming more evident. Those who wish to preserve Francis's progressive path stand in contrast to those seeking a return to a more traditionalist approach. The upcoming conclave will not only determine the next pope, but also the ideological trajectory of Catholicism itself. There are moments in history when the future hangs in the balance, and the Vatican is at one of those turning points. The next conclave will not just elect a new pope, it will define the path of the Church for years to come. If you want to understand how to act with proper knowledge in crucial times like these, we may have a powerful source for you. This is exactly what The Secret of Jesus' Apparitions offers, a path to clarity and wisdom through his revelations. This ebook goes into his prophecies and offers insight into what lies ahead. It's available for free in the pinned comment. Grab it now before the edition's gone. Francis's time as Pope has been marked by choices that have changed the Church's internal structure in big ways. By carefully selecting the cardinals who will eventually elect his successor, he has ensured that his influence will persist long after his departure. More than 70% of the current College of Cardinals were appointed by him, a deliberate strategy that makes it difficult for a radical conservative to rise to power. This has caused anxiety among certain factions within the Vatican, particularly those who view Francis's leadership as a deviation from traditional doctrine. The undercurrents of political maneuvering are intensifying. Private meetings between cardinals have become more frequent. Alliances are being formed, and strategic discussions are taking place behind the Vatican's heavy wooden doors. History shows that when a pope resigns, the balance of power shifts unpredictably. The resignation of Benedict XVI did not guarantee a conservative successor. Instead, it paved the way for Francis, who radically transformed the Church's direction. This unpredictability is what now fuels uncertainty among Vatican officials. One key challenge is the widening gap between cardinals who advocate for reform and those who wish to restore a more rigid, doctrinal approach. Some view Francis's legacy as an essential modernization, one that brought the Church closer to contemporary global issues, while others see it as a period of instability that weakened traditional values. This division will not only shape the next election, but will also impact the stability of the Church moving forward. The question is no longer just who will be the next pope, but whether the Church will embrace continuity or attempt to reclaim its past. The battle lines have already been drawn, and the outcome will determine Catholicism's role in a rapidly changing world. The College of Cardinals, shaped by Francis himself, now holds the responsibility of determining the Church's future. Behind the closed doors of the Apostolic Palace, certain names have already begun circulating, whispered among those who hold the power to decide. Some cardinals seek a figure who will ensure continuity, while others see this as an opportunity to shift the Church's direction. As the Vatican navigates this defining moment, having a proper knowledge of these shifts is crucial. If you haven't yet, grab your free copy of our exclusive ebook. Only a few copies remain. One of the primary considerations in selecting a new pope is the global landscape. The Church is no longer solely a religious institution. It is deeply entangled in geopolitics, responding to conflicts, economic crises, and shifting cultural values. The next pope will need to navigate an increasingly secularized world while maintaining the Church's doctrinal authority. This makes the selection process even more delicate. Choosing a leader who can uphold Catholic traditions while also engaging with modern global issues requires careful political calculation. The debate extends beyond ideology and into strategy. Some cardinals argue that the Church must continue its engagement with contemporary challenges, advocating for leaders who can sustain Francis's emphasis on social justice, environmental concerns, and inclusivity. Others, however, believe that the Church has strayed too far from its core mission, and that a return to doctrinal conservatism is necessary to restore stability. The ideological split is undeniable, and the upcoming conclave will be a battleground between these competing visions. The world will be watching as this crucial decision unfolds. Unlike previous papal elections, where the theological background of a candidate often took precedence, this time, leadership skills and diplomatic experience could be the determining factors. The next pope will inherit a divided Church, a fragile global order, and a legacy that is still being defined. Those shaping this election understand the weight of their choice. What they decide in the coming months will shape Catholicism for generations. Among the names circulating within the Vatican, one stands out with increasing frequency: Cardinal Pietro Parolin. As Secretary of State since 2013, Parolin has been at the center of Vatican diplomacy, shaping its relationships with world powers and navigating complex geopolitical issues. Unlike other cardinals whose backgrounds are rooted in theology or pastoral work, Parolin's career has been defined by negotiation and administration. This alone sets him apart from many potential candidates, making him a compelling option for those seeking continuity without radical reform. His reputation as a skilled mediator has placed him in pivotal roles, including the delicate agreement between the Vatican and Beijing regarding the appointment of bishops. This deal, controversial within Catholic circles, demonstrated his ability to balance Vatican interests with the demands of an external government. His work with the European Union, the United States, and Latin America further reinforced his position as a bridge builder, someone capable of maintaining diplomatic ties without provoking unnecessary conflicts. For those who favor stability, Parolin represents the safest choice. He is not a populist figure, nor does he carry the ideological fervor that defines some of his colleagues. His approach has been one of calculated caution, supporting Pope Francis's reforms while ensuring they do not alienate more traditional factions within the Church. Because he can work with both progressives and conservatives, he is a good choice for cardinals who want to avoid division but still need a leader who knows how the Vatican works. However, his strength could also be perceived as a weakness. Unlike charismatic popes of the past, Parolin is not known for captivating speeches or bold public gestures. He operates behind the scenes, influencing policies rather than commanding global attention. Some question whether such a figure could inspire the faithful at a time when the Church faces significant cultural and ideological challenges. Would he be a leader who transforms Catholicism, or simply an administrator ensuring the smooth functioning of the institution? With the conclave approaching and the future of the Church hanging in the balance, now is the time to stay informed. Your free copy is still available, but not for long. Check the pinned comment before it's too late. The next conclave will test whether the Church values diplomacy over doctrinal authority. Parolin has built his career on discretion and negotiation, rarely engaging in public theological debates. His potential election raises an essential question. Does the Vatican need a pope who speaks with prophetic conviction, or one who secures its influence through diplomatic maneuvering? Many within the Curia already believe they know the answer. The Church has historically thrived under strong spiritual leadership rather than bureaucratic governance. Figures like John Paul II and Benedict XVI stood as unwavering defenders of Catholic doctrine, challenging political and ideological shifts that threaten traditional values. In contrast, Parolin's career has been built on negotiation and pragmatism, qualities that, while beneficial in diplomacy, may not be sufficient to confront the mounting cultural and moral crises facing the Church. His stance on key theological matters remains ambiguous. Unlike Francis, whose progressive vision was clear, or Benedict, who firmly upheld conservative teachings, Parolin has consistently avoided positioning himself as either a reformer or a traditionalist. This neutrality, while politically advantageous, creates uncertainty about how he would handle divisive issues such as the role of women in the Church, the approach to LGBTQ+ Catholics, or the balance between doctrinal fidelity and pastoral flexibility. Would his leadership provide the clarity that many Catholics seek, or would it further entrench the Vatican in political maneuvering without a definitive moral direction? His relationship with international organizations further complicates the debate. While Francis often positioned the Church as an independent moral authority, Parolin has fostered closer ties with global institutions, reinforcing the Vatican's role in diplomatic affairs. Critics worry that this inclination might lead to a papacy overly concerned with maintaining geopolitical stability at the expense of defending Catholic identity against secular influences. Could a pope so accustomed to the language of diplomacy effectively counter the ideological currents that challenge church teachings? A leader who prioritizes mediation over conviction risks diluting the church's prophetic voice. In moments of crisis, the Catholic faithful have historically turned to popes who offered firm guidance rather than strategic concessions. The upcoming conclave is already shaping up to be one of the most consequential in recent history. Beyond selecting the next pope, the cardinals will be determining the trajectory of the Church in an era of uncertainty. The ideological divisions among them reflect the broader tension within Catholicism. Should the next pontiff continue Francis's reformist approach, or should the Church pivot back toward a more traditional, doctrinally rigid stance? In the secretive deliberations that take place before the final vote, alliances will be formed and strategies will emerge. While figures like Parolin may appear as frontrunners due to their institutional influence, history has shown that conclaves often produce unexpected results. A lesser-known cardinal, not yet considered a leading candidate, could emerge as a compromise choice, uniting opposing factions and preventing a prolonged deadlock. The political dynamics of previous elections suggest that the next pope may not necessarily be the candidate most discussed before the conclave, but rather the one capable of securing the widest consensus. Make sure you're ahead of the curve. A few copies of our free ebook are still up for grabs. Claim yours now in the pinned comment before they run out. Outside the Vatican walls, the faithful will watch closely, hoping for a leader who can address the crises plaguing the Church. The decline in religious vocations, the increasing secularization of Western societies, and the moral challenges posed by modern cultural shifts all demand a pontiff with both clarity and conviction. At the same time, a globalized world requires a pope who can navigate diplomatic relations without sacrificing the Church's core principles. This balance will be difficult to achieve, making the cardinal's decision all the more complex. If this message makes you think and you feel it connects with you, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Also, if you really want to support our work and help us keep creating valuable content, consider giving us a super thanks. Join this amazing community and don't miss any news. As with every papal election, external pressures will inevitably come into play. Political and economic interests have long sought to influence Vatican affairs, and this conclave will be no exception. Some fear that choosing a pope too aligned with international institutions could compromise the Church's independence, while others argue that diplomatic engagement is essential for maintaining its relevance on the world stage. The next leader must carefully tread this line, ensuring that the Church remains an authoritative voice rather than a passive participant in global affairs. Whoever ascends to the throne of Peter will inherit not just a centuries-old institution, but also the responsibility of defining Catholicism in an age of transformation. The conclave will determine whether the Church embraces continuity, reclaims its past, or forges an entirely new path forward. The weight of this choice will resonate for decades to come.